Hey, welcome to Dad Space. You know, the space for dads. This is Dad Space. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to throw some questions out to you as a dad, about your dad, and some thoughts for you. Questions about being a father here on Dad Space. We got questions. Lots and lots of questions. But I want to share them with you. Welcome to the podcast. I hope you're having a great dad day. Hope things are going well for you and your family, your kids, your spouse, your job. How are you personally? Are you doing okay? When was the last time you checked on you? Don't forget, you're important, and that's why we created this podcast for dads just like you. Welcome to Dad Space. Questions about being a father. I have a few for you, and I'll put all this great information in show notes so you don't have to try to write this down or remember it all. Because as dads, we got dad brain sometimes, right? So I have some questions. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions for you. Questions about being a father, and I wanted to share them with you. Again, I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going well for you. Again, my name is David. I live in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And I created this podcast for one reason, to connect dads with other dads, bring on dad guests, encourage you, no matter whether you're a brand new dad, soon to be dad, future dad, current dad, past dad, wherever you are in this dad journey. I'm an empty nester, so that's where I'm coming from. All my kids are grown up. My 3 kids are grown and moved on to other stuff, and it's just my wife, Jen, and I, and we're surrounded by stuff. And pets, lots and lots of pets. They've left them all behind and all their gear. But I wanted to get on and talk about 5 questions about being a father. And I wanted to share them with you because I think it's important to have these questions come in front of us and give us some chance to think about it. So grab a coffee, grab your favorite beverage, and let's do this together. You ready? Okay, question number 1. Are there things you wish you had done differently as a father, or are you planning on doing things differently than your father? See, questions along these lines will help dads think more about the quality of your role as a dad and identify some of the things that you could influence you and your role as a parent and wanting to be a better parent. So think about the things when you look back at your father, your dad, if you grew up without a dad, whoever that significant person was in your life. Think about the things that they've done and modeled for you. Is there anything that you want to do differently? Maybe they didn't show emotion the way that you would like to show emotion for your kids. Maybe they worked a lot and they weren't home, and you have the option of working a lot, but you're making a choice to live a little bit more frugal and have less money and less things, but more time. What are those things that you wish you had done differently or are going to do differently now that you're a dad? Interesting. As dads, we all want to do our best for our kids. We want to be the best dad. But even then, your kids will say, I'm going to do differently than you did it. And as long as they're doing it better, I'm happy with that because we do our best and we hope our kids can acknowledge that. So number 2, do you think today's fathers have things harder or easier than you had them? Do you think today's fathers have things harder or easier than when you had them? This is a great question to help dads in general just reflect on the changes that have occurred since becoming a dad. You might get a good sense of the view of technology, for example, entertainment, faith, work, with a question like this. What do you think today's fathers have harder or easier than the generation before? Just simple things. Your kids playing outside. Right? You'd have to fight to get them in the house. Now we have to fight them to get them out the door to go get some fresh air. Even little things like that, technology. Kids and families living on phones and screens and how different that was for me when I was a kid. Our phones were attached to a wall. You couldn't carry them around with you. So what do you think today's fathers have as far as things being harder or easier for them? Number 3, what do you enjoy most about being a dad? Write it down. Think about it. Let's think about this together. What do you enjoy the most about being a dad? This question will help you remember some of the best moments of being a dad in your life, especially for somebody like me who's now an empty nester. It's a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking back about maybe things I could have done better or things that we did well, the joys, the smiles, the pictures, the videos. What do you enjoy most about being a dad? And if you're a soon-to-be dad, what do you anticipate that you're going to enjoy about being a dad? A good follow-up question might involve the things that we least liked being about a dad as well. That's another way to look at it as well. But what do you enjoy most about being a dad? I think you need to spend some time with yourself, maybe a piece of paper or your phone, and make some notes in there. But answer the question. And again, all these will be in the show notes, but what do you enjoy most about being a dad? So number 4, what traditions did your father pass on to you that you have now passed on to your kids and your family? What traditions, what things, what beliefs, what activities, what traditions did your father pass on to you that you have now passed on to your kids? Sometimes we can't quite figure out where something dad taught us came from. And questions like this will help us gain some insight into our personal history and their personal history. Again, we're talking about 2 different generations, right? They grew up in one generation and we grew up in a different one. And sometimes those traditions don't translate well from one generation to the next, and to the next, and to the next. I remember sitting down with my dad long before he passed away, and I just got the chance to ask him personal history questions. Just more information about how he met my mom and what dating life was like and what his first job was. And, you know, when you lose your dad in life and he's not there anymore, whether he's left or he has passed away, you lose that connection, the ability just to sit down and have a conversation. And I just wish I had more of those moments that I could bring back to memory, or I'd taken better advantage of those moments. Understanding the traditions of your father and what he has lived through and what he has passed on to you, that is something that really will help you as far as planning and organizing what's coming for your family. So number 5, what was one of the hardest moments you had being a father, and why? Why was it that situation, examples, whatever, why was it so hard? What was the hardest moment you had being a dad, and why? Sometimes it's really tough to be a dad, and there's times when it was the toughest thing. Sometimes it is tough to be a dad, and the times when it was toughest can give you some great insight into why your dad had the parenting style that he did. It's amazing how smart our parents become as we become older and realize that we didn't know it all, even though we thought we did. And being a dad is something that I treasure. And having those moments when my kids were small and everyone was under one roof, you just felt that safety and security of knowing where your kids are at and what they're up to. Being an empty nester, that security feeling, that blanket of safety over your home is gone. They're not here. They're not under my house. They're not behind my doors and bumping elbows and, doing life together under one roof. It's a very weird feeling. So if you're a new dad, if you're going to have a baby, or you just had your first one, or your family's young, treasure your moments. is what I can tell you as an empty nesting dad. Treasure your moments, fill up your cup, pour into your family, and realize as we look back over these questions about, questions that we could ask about being a father and questions we could point towards our dad or our memory of our dad or those that took care of us when we were young. Think about family and think about how the people in your life shaped who you are today. And maybe you had a terrible example of a dad. Maybe that's not who you want to bring into your family today. I recognize that some of us don't grow up in the best situations. Then what are you going to take from what you learned and what you've experienced in life and make it better? And for those that had great dads who poured their life into you and gave you everything and took the last of everything and gave you the first. For those dads, what did you enjoy about them, and how can you take those traditions and learnings and translate them into today's generation with impact for your kids? Let's do our best this week, today, in this moment, to go through these questions again. Again, they'll be in the show notes, but go through these questions. Have a good hard look in the mirror of who you are as a dad, who you want to be as a dad, who you've been as a dad. And review as a kind of a test, a litmus test of where you're at in life. And rethink maybe some of those things that you can put in place today to make your place a better spot. And realize that your kids looking at you today are like, I'm going to do it much better than you ever did. Awesome. That's good to hear. Do your best and realize your kids are going to try to do it better than you. That's fine. But you've done your best and you've helped them. And you've been the example you can be. Step up. That's what Dad Space is all about. We have a community over on Facebook where we get dads together. It's a private community. It's not open to the public where just anybody can come in. It's only open to you. And that's why I'm putting this at the end of the podcast, because you're the one that I want in the group. I'm not looking for tire kickers. I'm not looking for salespeople. I'm not looking for spam or hate. None of that. It's a safe spot for dads. And you have an invitation to come and be a part of our community. Connect with past guests. You can connect with me, other dads, and share in a safe spot. And the one thing I just want to shout out as well, I've been looking at some of my numbers on the podcast, and I'm having an interesting response from the listeners that are listening to this podcast. I haven't quite figured it out, but over 67% of my audience right now at this moment are female, listening into the podcast. Again, creating this podcast, I wasn't thinking of that as my audience, but welcome, first of all. If you're listening, I'm so happy that you're here. I would love to hear from you and how Dad Space is helping you. Maybe you're a single mom, or maybe you're looking for insight into how your husband thinks. Maybe you're looking for some guidance. I'm not sure. I would love to hear from you. Over on our website, there's a little icon, a little microphone. Click it and record a little voice message. It comes straight to my email. I'll put your question, your comment into the podcast and respond. I would love to talk to you. It's more than just recording a podcast episode and sending it out into the world. I'd love to chat with you and support you and help you any way that I can. So dadspace.ca is the website. All of the links are there. Links to the podcast. It's just one place to go. It's really, really simple. dadspace.ca. You can tell my voice is tired. dadspace.ca. Head over there, and I would love to meet you there and chat further. Thank you for being part of the podcast. Again, show notes help you with all the information from today, and I would love to hear from you. Let's connect over on dadspace.ca. Hope you have a wonderful day. Dads, do your best. Treat your spouse with honor and love and respect. Treat your kids in a way where they feel safe and secure with you every day. Step up and be the dad you need to be. Appreciate you. On the next one, we're going to talk more about dads and all the great things around dads. Dadspace.ca. See you over there. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode, right here of Dad Space. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.